You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters, with thanks to Wexford Insurances. Wexford Insurances. More information at wexfordinsurance.com.
I'm joined now by Charlie Mernagh, Director of Ask Solutions. Charlie, you might start off by telling me a bit about yourself and your own background, please.
Well, I'm a Wexford man, Karl. I grew up in Rosslare Strand and started my career, as most people down Rosslare Strand would do, go down to Kelly's Hotel, sort a few bottles down there, wait on people up in the Ivy Room, and I guess that would have been a very good start for me. From that, then I progressed on to the Talbot Hotel in Wexford. Spent about a year and a half there working for Mr. Lynch. He was a very good manager to work for, in fairness to the man. And from that, then I went up to Jury's Hotel in Dublin, and we would have opened up a new bar in Leopardstown Racecourse called the Jonas Bar. So that would have been my catering end of it. I suppose I would have spent about 4 years doing that, Karl.
From there then, Charlie, where did you go?
I got itchy feet then in around about 79, and I was, in fairness, like when I was in the catering business, a lot of salespeople were coming and going. So I got talking to a few of them, and they said, like, you'd make a damn good salesman, Charlie. And I just remember this man from New Ireland that used to come into the house at home. We used to call him White Trousers. I can't even think of the man's name, being honest with you. But I felt he had a good job, and I felt it's something that I would like to do. So I went looking for jobs. So I asked him a little bit about it, and he said, yeah, it's not a bad job to get into, and everybody needs insurance. So what I did, I saw this ad in the paper for Combine Insurance, and I applied for it. I got the interview. When I was driving into the car park at the hotel, I saw this red Mercedes parked outside the door. I said, I hope that's the man that's interviewing me. As it turned out, it was. So I said, yeah, maybe that might be a bad job to get into. So I would have spent a lot of my life in Combine. Started off as a sales rep. My very first sale actually was down in Waterford City. And spent 2 years as a sales rep. Got promoted into management back in 1982. So I took over Kerry, West Cork. That was my very first experience down in Kerry. My first year in Kerry in 1982, I would have got top manager in Ireland that year. And I guess that was the beginning of my career. So I moved from there then into Limerick. And in around about 1985 then, I was promoted to district manager, looking after most of the south and southeast. And for 25 odd years then, I would have managed districts. And I guess that's where I got the bug for training, because the one great thing about working in the insurance business is that they were very, very good at training people. You take them into the classroom situation, but the transfer of learning into the field was absolutely crucial.
Most houses across the county of Wexford have, at some point over the last 20 years, got a knock on their door from a combined rep. Certainly, I worked in insurance myself over the years and always found that the combined guys were very, very well trained. You were probably behind most of that training. Tell us about the process that somebody underwent when they became a salesperson with combined.
Quite a lot of the people that came into combined insurance would never have sold anything in their life before. So that's the most important thing to remember. So when they were in the training room then, the induction training would have taken up to about 2 weeks. And throughout the induction, they would have been taught a 5-step process. The most important part is that they need to know how to introduce themselves to the general public, because obviously the respect for the public was the key here. Naturally enough then, in the insurance business, you need to find out the need. So the fact find then would have been the next part of that process. Out of the fact find then, from that point, if the person was suitable for the product, then you carry on into the presentation. So you present the product that's suitable for the client out of the fact find. So there would have been a lot of role play that would take place on the induction. They would have been taught the principles of success. Research was being done way back in the 60s by a person by the name of Napoleon Hill. He would have been the author of Think and Grow Rich. And W. Clement Stone, who would have been the founder of Combined. They researched the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and out of that would have come 17 success principles. So they are the principles that a lot of the combined sales representatives would have been taught. That would have actually been the foundation for their success. One of the key parts of those principles would have been definiteness of purpose, knowing exactly what you want to do yourself. A lot of people, for example, would come into the business and they would expect to go on into management, but they may not necessarily be suitable for that role. Okay, so you would actually have the career representative as well. So once they graduate, they're then shadowed by their local manager. So the local manager then would have a 13-week process that he or she would have to follow. But throughout that process then, the district manager would have a role to play as well. So they would be inspecting the manager, and the manager would be inspecting the sales representative. So the district manager then, throughout the 13 weeks, would have to shadow the person on the road, and they would also have to sit down and have an interview with the person in after the first 13 weeks. And that would be for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Remembering that these people never sold anything in their life before.
You were with Combine for 30 years. Why did you leave?
Well, I suppose like the present climate that we have out there, I was made redundant. I was made redundant actually in the middle of 2011. That came as a bit of a shock because at the time I would have been, I remember a lot of lads coming to me and saying, look, if there's any members of the staff that are going to get made redundant, the one part of the company that wouldn't get redundant would be the training department. As I said earlier on, I was made redundant, but in fairness, it wasn't really me that was made redundant. It was my department that was made redundant. So I had to actually, like everybody else out there then, I had to look and see what I was going to do myself, because my role would have been obviously training people on change management and training people on processes. I guess now it was time for me to start training myself and look at what I was going to do. So I had to make up my mind exactly what field I was going to go into. And I looked at a few fields, and one area that I felt maybe, after 30 odd years, maybe selling insurance wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I looked at training and education.
So Charlie, you made the decision following the redundancy to set up Ask Solutions. What was the next step?
Okay, well, I suppose the next step was to get myself out there. And starting a new company, as anybody would understand, is a difficult task because nobody knows who the company is. So what best way to do it than only form an alliance with organisations that are in the same field as that I was going into and piggyback, I suppose, if you want to call it, on that. So I had a meeting with DCU Ryan Academy. I gave them the idea that I had in mind, which was obviously to run a conference, invite CEOs and sales directors along to that conference. They loved the idea, in actual fact. So they gave me the full task. So my very first contract for Ask Solutions was to organise a conference for DCU Ryan Academy. So to me, I felt that was a brilliant start. So I had to organise speakers. For me to get my name out there, I felt the best way to do it is get the best speakers that I could find. Remembering that it was CEOs and sales directors that were sitting in front of us. So the talk had to be relevant to them. So I went after sports figures. So one of the sports figures that I brought along was Shane Byrne. He did an absolute super job. And what he focused on would have been process within the sporting arena and how that process would marry into a business. And it married very, very well. I brought along David McWilliams, and of course David McWilliams spoke about the economy, but he also spoke about startups and how startups should actually launch themselves. And interestingly enough, he spoke along the same lines that I actually went, which made me feel good about myself, in fairness. So that conference was a very good success. I run that actually in September last, and we had over 60 people at it. And Ask Solutions brand was now getting some footing out there. So that was my very first alliance. And then I formed an alliance with Business and Training Solutions International because they were very relevant to what I was doing for over 30 years.
Who were they, Charlie?
Well, Business and Training Solutions International were actually found back in 2000. Found by two guys, actually, Frank Salisbury and another guy by the name of Sandy Metcalf. Frank Salisbury had been researching sales for a good number of years. So he spent over 20 years researching sales. So he went and he's written a book on sales coaching. So about 2005, he launched Business and Training Solutions International and formed an alliance actually with the Sales Institute of Ireland. And they marketed sales qualifications. So that would have been the test market for them. So from that, they now have a graduate diploma in sales coaching, a diploma in professional selling, and an advanced diploma in professional selling. And those qualifications are recognised internationally. They have the ICM badge, which is the Institute of Commercial Management, and they're managed by Ofqual. That would be an equivalent actually to the department here in Ireland of education. And Business and Training Solutions, they're trading in the UK, they're trading in Abu Dhabi, and they're trading in Ireland.
And what's your role with BTSI?
I'm a sales director. So my role initially would have been obviously to source channel partners here in Ireland, which I've actually done. So what my role is now is to train their sales team on marketing the sales qualifications. But also my understanding of sales, naturally enough, comes into play on this one as well. So as to work side by side with the channel partners is the main role that I would have now with Business and Training Solutions International. Just
in the area of sales, what are your own thoughts out there today on the quality of salespeople that are working across the country?
When people actually are trying to sell to somebody, they're turning the person off. So really and truly, what a sales job should be is sitting down, having a good conversation with the person that they're looking to do business with and understanding the buying process. That people don't like to be sold anything. People like to buy, okay? And buy for their own needs. So as a sales representative, really, I do believe wholeheartedly, and that's one of the reasons that I teamed up with Business and Training Solutions International, is that it is crucial that salespeople do gain a qualification in the profession that they're in, because it is a profession. So I think companies that actually have sales functions should look externally and look to education rather than training. Training is a quick fix. I can come in and do training for people. I can spend one day with that person. But will the knowledge be retained as a result of that? No. Whereas if I come in and educate somebody in sales and they spend 40 weeks, which is the length of the program, in learning that qualification, they will have instilled the knowledge within that 40-week period. So they will bring it back to the workplace.
We often hear the line, you're a born salesman. Is that true, or is it a learnable skill?
It is a learnable skill like any other skill. I mean, you could be a very good footballer, but unless you have a very good coach, unless you have a good team around you, unless you have a process to follow, you will never get onto the international platform.
So, Charlie, what's your ambition for Ask Solutions over the next 3 years?
Okay, well, for the next 3 years, I would like to open up an office here in Wexford, take on some staff, and obviously give something back into the economy. Help out companies, because obviously at the end of the day, like, performance is the key for every company out there. So what Ask Solutions will provide are the tools necessary to improve performance. So it's people performance and management performance are really the two areas I'll be focusing on. And that'll be through training, coaching, and mentoring.
Well, Charlie, it's been an interesting interview. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you the very best in your future with Ask Solutions.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with thanks to Wexford Insurances. Wexford Insurances, #1 for business insurance in County Wexford.